dance foot.
So welcome to Sensible Secondhand Classics, the show where we look at nostalgic cars that you could buy that are over 15 years old for a budget of between £1,000 and £5,000. This is a 1972 Triumph Stag Mark 1, but is it any good? Should you care? Let's find out, shall we? So the Stag had a long gestation period. It was first sort of conceived around 1964 when Michelotti asked Triumph management for a 2000 saloon that he could then build a special car on the platform of. And he certainly did. He made an amazing looking prototype car, and the Triumph board was so impressed with Michelotti's efforts that they pressed ahead with sort of production plans for it. By 1968, the car was almost ready to go, but they had to make a decision as to what engines the car would have. Originally, they were going to use the 2-litre straight 6 engine from the Triumph 2000, then the 2.5 litre straight 6 from the Triumph 2.5 PI or 2500S, depending on whether it was going to have a carb or fuel injection. But actually what they went with was an engine that was kind of like one left side of a V8 in 4-cylinder form, effectively. So the twin cylinder heads on this V8 are very similar, just one cylinder head on the Triumph Smart 4, if that makes sense, which is available in 1.7, 1.85 and 2-litre versions during its production life in the 1960s and 70s in Saabs and in Triumphs. The V8 that they went with has a capacity of 3 litres. It generates 145 horsepower. 0 to 60 of this car is about 9 seconds, and top speed probably about 120 miles an hour or so, but we're not going to do that today. Yet the sound of it is amazing. Later on we'll look at some of the aspects of the engine which weren't so good. But there are loads of things you can say about it, and I'll put a link in the description below to the Honest John Classics page where they talk about these sort of issues a bit more. But you can have a Stag that actually isn't necessarily unreliable. This one, it's been with its owner Mark since 1979. It's actually been okay. My main problem today is this this wind. I'm going to put the windbreak up. There we go, that probably helped a little bit. Should have done that earlier. But driving this car along this country road in Somerset is amazing. This is what it's all about. Maybe I'd like to try a manual one of these. This 3-speed auto is okay for the time. It doesn't need to have that many ratios though when you want them, which is a bit of a problem, but you know, it's alright. It's even quite comfortable. I'm quite impressed with the comfort level in a car like this, although it's going to take me a while to get used to the position of the accelerator and the brake, because they're not really where you expect them necessarily. But it's all very pleasant, really. So here we are, viewers, on a surprisingly busy afternoon in an unpronounceable Somerset village. I can't believe that a Stag can still be bought for about £5,000 to £6,000. Now bear in mind, it won't be anything like this one. I mean, really nice Stags are in excess of £10,000. This one, same owner for 44 years. It's an early one. It's a 1972. It's actually still got the original spec wheels on it as well. A lot of them did have the alloy wheels that you also do see on Triumph 2000s and 2500 and 2.5 PIs, but these were the kind of standard wheels that they came with. Because this is a Mark 1, Mark II's came out about 73. It's got the body coloured sills, which were changed to black, and then with chrome covers in 76, and it's got the body coloured rear panel as well. Some of the Mark II's had a black one, some of them didn't. It's very confusing actually, trying to have a difference between a Mark 1 and a Mark 2. It's not really that easy. A lot of people just said to me when I was thinking about that, just you know, they came out in 73, so they're going to be on an L, which is the changeover letter. That's all they said about it really. But very, very handsome looking car. And I'm also surprised, given the reputation for this car, about the engine and rust and all sorts of things, and general BL kind of underappreciation for years, how inexpensive these are to buy. If you're thinking about an R107 SL, which this competed directly against for a few years, compared with one of these, they're so much less expensive to buy. Have a look inside the interior. I do apologise for the wind, by the way, viewers. That's not great either. Interior is actually very original on this car. So Mark, who owns it, got it in 1979, and it's mostly just original in here. There are bits of wear of things in here, but you know, you can forgive that. This car is over 50 years old, which I can't believe when I'm sort of going around in it. So we've got the earlier steering wheel. The later ones have a slightly smaller one, and these seats are also different. The later ones, I think, came with headrests as standard, but I think headrests was an option at this stage for them. Not all the Mark 1's got them, as you can see. So it's a vinyl interior on this, it's not a leather interior. All sort of colour coded, and there's the door handle right down there at the bottom. Quite a familiar dashboard to those who are, you know, into 70s Triumphs. It does remind me very much of, say, an Innsbruck Triumph 2000 or 2.5 PI dash, and actually it's even reminiscent to me, oh gosh, come on autofocus, it's even reminiscent to me of things like a Dolomite Sprint Dash or the higher spec Dolomites, because the lower spec ones, and you know, Toledo and things like that, and 1500 and or whatever, they I'm sorry viewers, my phone decided that it would just do an update without me asking it to. Honestly. Right. We've got electric windows in here actually, viewers, which is great. And you could even get these with air conditioning. That was more for the American market, but really luxury specification. It's very light power steering for a car of this age, and lots and lots and lots of gauges. Engine temperature, voltmeter, rev counter, clock, fuel gauge. I mean, I personally like an old pressure gauge somewhere, but you know, that's okay. Vents in the middle of here. I think that is the original location for the speaker, but in this car the stereo's actually got additional speakers like this one down here. And we haven't got a CB radio in here. How amazing is that? I think it's from the 1980s. If I can just get this thing open, I might struggle a bit with that. Maybe it's locked or something. We'll come back to that in a second. But we've got all the warning lights there you could ever need in your life. Heating, ventilation controls, and an ashtray down here. They're actually relatively simple. It's just off and fresh here. There's the location of it, car and screen, and then cold and hot. Very simple. Modern stereo fitted, because actually this car is used quite a lot, although it's kept carefully in a garage. And then here's the Borg-Warner Type 35 gearbox. The later automatic Stags had a Type 65 gearbox. The manual ones actually had a gearbox that could trace its development right back to the Triumph TR2, which is really odd to think about that. And the early ones could get with overdrive or non-overdrive. Later ones was overdrive only. So we've got choke here. Heat. I think that's the heated screen of that one of these. I think that was maybe for hard top. And then fan speed is this one. I think you pull that out. There we go. 2-speed fan, and there is the cigarette lighter. Bonnet release is just down here. The accelerator pedal is in a very, very unusual position. It's right over there, which reminds me of something like an Austin Healey 3000. That's the light control there. Again, similar to the old Dolomites like this. Also similar to them is having the ignition key going on the left hand side rather than the right hand side. Wipers on the left, indicators on the right in sort of old British car fashion. On the later cars, the interior light was on here. On this Mark 1, there are two interior lights either side, one on the left and one on the right. This seat's actually really comfortable. It's even got inertia real belts, although the inertia real belt is something I struggle with, because you can see down here that it's a very unusual way of sort of putting the buckles in. But yeah, it's pretty nice in here. It's a lot more spacious than a lot of sports car interiors I've been in. Much more spacious. So yeah, I should sort my seatbelt out, shouldn't I, viewers? That would be easier, wouldn't it? Right, so I think we'll first take a look at this amazing Triumph V8 engine. And before you say it, yes, a lot of these cars have had different engines in them. This is actually the original 3-litre engine in here. It's had new timing chains. They generally have to be done about every 30,000 miles from memory. That was one of the main things to worry about with these. And also the water pump's in a very unusual location. It's on top of the engine. And if you were in traffic with one of these, you could quite easily cause the cooling system to sort of run coolant off into the expansion tank. And then when you came back later, you'd find you'd need to top the system up, so you didn't actually let it go so low that the water pump wasn't being fed properly, and the car would then overheat and cause damage. So a lot of the issues on these cars were caused by people just not understanding how the engines worked, mechanics maybe not understanding how they worked. There obviously were design flaws. On the very early cars, the engines were actually put together really, really well. On the production ones, they had problems with warped cylinder heads and things like that. So I will put a link in the description below to the Honest John Classics page about some more issues to do with the engine. There are quite a few. One of the things this car has is a Kenlo fan, which is a very, very good idea. Just, you need all the cooling that you can get on one of these if you want to run it with the original engine. But this car, in 44 years of ownership, has actually been quite reliable. The main thing, obviously, is doing those timing chains at a specified interval. Just like the Dolomites at the time, the bonnet opens forward like this. I think it's in the stay, which is good, because it's a bit windy today. I'll just hold that just to make sure it doesn't do anything. And yeah, all sorts of people put different engines in these. You could put a 3-litre V6 Essex engine. You could actually put a straight 6. And originally, the Stag was going to have two versions. It was going to have a 2.5 straight 6, which is similar to the Triumph 2.5 PI that came out in '68, and it was going to have a V8. They actually dropped the 6-cylinder option because they didn't think actually the car really had enough power to compete in America, so they needed to have this 145 brake horsepower V8. But there's one on the internet at the moment for sale with a 2-litre straight 6 in it, because the drivetrain suspension is very similar to a 2000 or 2.5 PI or 2500. The chassis I don't think is exactly the same. There's not that much in common in terms of the chassis, but certainly the suspension and drivetrain is quite similar in these. I also think the Michelotti styling of the front end is really nice. I can see why, when they facelifted the 2000, 2.5 PI and 2500 in '69, they went for this kind of look as well. Right, let's have a look in the boot, shall we? So have a look in the boot. It's actually, for a sports car, that's really practical. As you can see, there's all the sort of show kit in here that Mark has. I really like this number plate light feature with the Triumph badge as well. I think that's really great. Well, because it's a '72, this car proudly wears some old silver on black plates. I get really funny about people who put these plates on cars after '73. It really annoys me, that kind of thing. But this is absolutely fine. This is how it might have originally come, actually, because you could have both from '68 to '73. You could have both. But yeah, it's pretty good. I'm actually impressed how much space there is. And it's a very practical car for doing touring. And even we've got the overriders on here, which you can tell that this car was originally sort of designed for America, where you'd have to come up against much larger things. And it got the CB radio area as well. That's just fantastic, isn't it? Right, I think we'll try the glove box now, but I have to get in the back, aren't I? Because that's what I have to do. You can see here, the Mark 1s have the glove box light actually in the lid and not in the glove box. It's something they changed later on. It's a very unusual. I don't think I've ever seen a car that's like this. It's not massive in here, viewers. We're not going to be putting the secret mission documents in here. Although, if you're Mr. Richardson and you want your cup of tea on the dash, it looks like there's a space for your mug of beverage of choice on there. Okay, I'm going to have to see if I can get in the back, aren't I? This is going to be interesting. So we've put the seat forward and opened it. It's a really unusual mechanism, this. It kind of goes forward at an angle like this. Right, Mr. Manning from Matty's Cars, this is for you. Watch yourself on the seatbelt, of course. Fortunately, we haven't got the roof on today, so it's a lot easier. And if I put myself back in here, I'm just going to prop it over my knee so I don't have to do the catch again. Yeah, I mean, I've got infinite headroom, which is good. If the roof was on, I'd be very cramped indeed. It wouldn't be great. As you can see, my knees is probably the seat up like that. But I'm in, and of course I've got the lights either side as well. I think those open on different doors. Yeah, I mean, if the passenger was really short and it was a nice sunny day, it wouldn't be so bad. It's just if it's raining or something and I would have to sort of travel in here with the hard top on, and you could get hard tops or soft tops or both actually on Stags, then that would be more a problem. But yeah, that's it. Right, viewers, I think it's time now to go out for another drive. Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. The driving experience of this car is pretty good. We've got McPherson struts at the front, we've got semi-trailing arms at the back, very similar to a Triumph 2000 or 2500S or 2.5 PI. But the thing that is different about it is the soundtrack. A lot of people say that this original Triumph V8, it does sound better than a Rover V8. I mean, that's probably down to personal preference, but this car's got a standard exhaust on it, and I couldn't believe when I first heard it, the exhaust is standard. It makes such a nice noise. If anything, the steering feels, to me, a bit over-assisted. There's no variable weight to it at all, so if you're going faster down these country roads, you want a bit of feedback through the wheel, and it's not got as much feedback as you would think from a car of this era. But that's because power steering systems really at the time were no way as sophisticated as they are today. But it's still an absolute delight. It's just sort of wonderful that you can pick these cars up for relatively little money for one that's in really nice condition. I mean, the sort of rougher ones at the bottom end, sort of £5,000 to £6,000. I'm sure you can have some fun in them, but they're likely to need some attention fairly soon. This one, in this sort of condition, with the fact that it's been loved by the same person for almost 45 years, it's an absolute and utter delight. I am a privileged man today. So viewers, the Triumph Stag, is this something that you should consider as a sensible second-hand classic with your budget of between £1,000 and £5,000? Well, I have to say probably not for that sort of money. You're going to be looking at some kind of project car. It's probably going to have problems with the engine, whatever engine someone's fitted to it, and it's probably going to be rusty, and there are probably going to be other things you need to do. This sort of car, you know, looking probably excessive, something like £10,000 for a car like this, would be far more the sort of way to go if you wanted one of these Stags. Now, they can be problematic. They were problematic back in the day. They can be great. a lot of specialists out there will help you to get the car to the standard that you need it to. Even these days with the original engine, a lot of these issues which were something back in the day, people have worked out how to solve them, and so they can be a lot better than ever when they were made. Or you can just go for one that's had, you know, a Rover V8, a Ford Essex V6, or the straight 6 Triumph engine fitted. That's also a possibility. And the survival rate of these cars is surprisingly high, considering how many they made, and that, I think, has kept prices down a little bit. But anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like us, leave a comment below, and we shall see you again soon for more reasonably priced nostalgic motoring.